Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. I'm the host, Jarrod Thomas, and I thank you for checking out this episode. You know, this thing, it started as a great big petri dish, and to some degree still very much is. Trying to figure out how to get traction, how to gain listeners and viewers and all the things. But there's one thing that I never really am going to get used to. I'll take you back to a time when I was in broadcasting school, and as the story goes, I went to Northland Community Technical College, and I went there to play football and baseball. And when I got there, to be honest with you, I had no real plan for school, none at all. I didn't really have any sort of idea about what I wanted to do. I didn't know what the school really had to offer in terms of academics. And again, quite frankly, it wasn't why I was there. I was there to very simply play sports. So with that in mind, and perhaps maybe a little sheepishly these days, I went to school, got there, and again, they told me I had to go to class. I had to register for classes. I had to do something. So literally decided that I'd go walking through the hallways of the school, and I came across the radio and broadcasting department. Now, remember, this is the early 90s, 1990. I suppose it would have been fall of 1991. And I've figured out how to get on campus, if you can call it a campus, on time and for football practice. So anyway, I looked into the radio broadcasting play and thought, I can do that. Now, my earliest recollection of wanting to be in radio was when I was 12 years old. So that would have been 1985. And I remember I got a skateboard for Christmas or something. I was out in the driveway and I was playing with it. I never rode a skateboard really. I never got good at it. It was just one of those toys that you got because every boy that age should have a skateboard. Long before the internet, long before smartphones ruled our life, long before any of that, I'm sitting outside and I'm listening to the radio. And I thought, man, is there a cooler job on planet Earth than being on the radio? So fast forward about, I suppose, 5.5, 6 years, and there I am. Learning how to do radio. But it was during that time that we had a decision to make. It was radio and TV broadcasting. So the radio stuff, I always thought, yeah, that's, I like that. This is something I like. This is something that I think I can do. This is something that I think I have a little bit of talent at. And then there was the TV part of it. And that's kind of how I'm going to tie all this together in a very long-winded way for you today. I was always told, going to sound perhaps a bit humorous, that I was a bit photogenic because of my large head. And so there was some thought that perhaps I should pursue a career in television, not because I'm handsome or I have good looks or anything like that, but because the thought would be that I would be a very trusted face, in part because of my large head. The part about this podcasting thing and the YouTube channel piece of it is that it's very different, and it brings that TV thing back into my head, and it's very difficult to get used to. Jacob, the guy who throws all this together, tells me that they're softening lights so you wouldn't have to battle the bald spot every week and those kinds of things. The stuff that we're working on internally, we're learning about. I am working on a couple of guests for the upcoming episodes. You may have heard of Jamie Seltzer. Jamie is a guy that's been very active in politics in North Dakota for some time. At his height, weighed 650 pounds. And for the first time in his adult life, he is below 300 pounds. It is a tremendous story. So I'm working on a date and time to bring that to you as well. But this week, I thought there was enough going on, and the old talk show host in me kind of got the best of me this week. And so I want to share with you some thoughts on a bevy of topics. First, the Grand Forks Public School District is out with what they're calling some data on chronic absenteeism. Now, this caught my attention because chronic absenteeism is thought to be missing 18 or more days in a year. 87% attend consistently. 81% are multilingual, right? 78% are special ed. So of the roughly 23% of people, okay, almost 1 in 4 are missing 18 days a year. Is that a lot? Now, I would tell you, I think it is. I can't ever recall missing 18 days of school. Even after that story I just shared with you, I managed to get my dead tired took us out of bed and go to school and go to class. In fact, it was part of the requirement of being on the football team, even at Northland Community Technical Colleges. You got to go to class. It's just one of the basic tenets. Especially if you're paying for it, you should probably figure out a way to get to school, get to class. But growing up in the house of Tom, you didn't miss school. You didn't miss school unless you had an appendage hanging off or unless you had some sort of doctor's note that said, listen, your kid has such severe strep throat that he'll get the entire school sick. You need to keep him home. But outside of that, my sister and I, we went to school. Us spores a lot of things, but we went to school. Now, the performance once there, probably a bit to be desired, at least for me. My sister did, frankly, quite a bit better. But I didn't really care for school so much, and it had nothing to do with the people at school. All good people. They all want well for you. They're all trying to teach you something. They're all trying to educate you so you can go on and you can have a good life. And I can't imagine not going to school and getting your high school degree. But alas, I'm told often, times have changed, JT. Times are different. Kids are different. They have different challenges than you and I did. Do they still live in fear of a boot up their ass if they don't go to school? Because if they don't, then maybe I've hit on something here that could help them get their tired butts to class. What happens when you start to miss school? Well, on the 6th day, the story that I read was a little unclear, which, by the way, found in the show notes. If on the 6th day the staff member reaches out to say, hey, where's Lipper been? He hasn't been at school. As if this is going to alert the parents to go, wow, okay, yeah, no, we're on it. Okay, so that's at day 6 or again, perhaps day 7. I'm a little unclear. So on the 6th day, perhaps you're still just absent. On day 7, maybe they're reaching out to say, hey, what gives? What's going on? So that's what they call tier 1. How the school intervenes. Okay, so now you got a kid that's chronically absent, right? And we're curious. Hey, where's Jimmy? Okay, so day 2, or tier 2 rather, we make a plan. Now that's at absent day 10. Okay, so on day 6, you reached out. And what'd you find? Well, the parents said they'd look into it, boss. Okay. So here we are 4 or 5 days later, and I haven't heard nothing. And the kid's still not in school. Time to make a plan. And then when you miss the 12th day, you can no longer receive any credit for that semester. There are a couple of things that come to mind when I hear this. And the very first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is, what about the parents, man? Admittedly, I may have failed you here in doing this legwork, but remember back in the day, I'm 52. Remember back in the day when we went to school? Remember all them years ago? Remember during that time that if you missed school and the school didn't know where you were, that the school then picked up the phone and the school called the parents, and the parents said, yeah, I don't know where he is. There was a truancy officer that then got involved, and now they're all up in your business, and they're all up in your business in a big way. This isn't good. You don't want the truancy officer in your business. You just don't. I've been told that some of the issues that are going on is the way that we live our lives these days. Now, think about this. Think about this. For some people who are not from the United States of America that are here, think like new Americans. Think people that don't speak the language. Think people that are here, in all seriousness, for a new opportunity or for a different opportunity or for an opportunity of a lifetime. And they have one kid that would be considered of age, 10, 11, 12, 13 or older, and they've got little kids. And mom and dad have to work, and somebody has to watch those minor children. When work schedules can't get synced up, that kid has to stay home. Would make sense to me. But here in the United States, if you're going to have kids, those kids are going to get educated. The taxpayers decided long ago that, yeah, we all benefit from an educated society, so send your kids to school. And again, respectfully, your traditions and the way that you look at life and the things that have to get done, I understand. You got to feed your family and you got to do those sorts of things. But you also have to figure out a way to get your child educated. You have to figure it out. You don't get to not educate your child. But at the basis of all of this, you got to hold the parents responsible. If they don't understand, they have to understand. There's a gazillion ways to educate a child these days, and I'm not here to argue the merits about what works and what doesn't work. That's for somebody else to decide. But to say that you have less opportunities or that you can't get your kid educated in this day and age, or they can't get their butts to class in 2025, almost 2026, seems to me to be just a ridiculous excuse. The other thing is, it's the parents. The parents are the ones. So the school district, in all of their well-intended fixes to these sorts of problems, seems to be very focused on the kid. It's the parents. If the issue is the kids aren't getting to school, you need to talk to the parents. If the parents can't get the kids to school, then you need to talk to the police or whatever social service agency is available to you to talk to the parents about getting the kids to school. Continued absences from the child means what? The parent gets in trouble. If the parent gets in trouble because of little Johnny's attitude, then the parent is going to make sure that little Johnny gets his butt to school. Some of the things from yesteryear aren't completely broken. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We don't have to do anything that hasn't been done before in order to make this work. If you don't have children in school and they need to be in school, talk to the people that are responsible for the children, parents. And if the behavior doesn't change or get corrected or improve, then the parents are the ones that are going to have to pay the piper. I bet you that in short order, the kids are going to start showing up in school again. Here's the other thing. They're going to launch a campaign, they being the school district, talk about being prepared and blah, 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 some catchy slogan thing that they're going to make sure that they get out to the masses as a way to try to make you aware that this is in fact a problem. We're here again. There's a bit of a group slap going on for, while we don't want to hear 23% of students rather, are not showing up for class. Yeah, that sounds like a big number, but really, what does it also mean? 77% of them are. So almost 8 out of 10 are getting to school on time, and they are living within the absentee requirements. And so we need to make sure that we spend money and group slap those that are not. It's another reason why your organization might be running at a deficit. This kind of logic doesn't play really across the board. As the great Paul Harvey would say, flipping the page now to page 2. I haven't really, as I like to say, walked down the hallway from my office into KNOX and shared my thoughts, I suppose, although the hosts have been very kind to invite me. Talk about Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel. What happened to Charlie Kirk is unfathomable. In fact, it doesn't take, just pay attention to the news and you'll see that gun violence is up. And this isn't me. I mean, dear God, nobody's taking your guns. Nobody. And again, to some degree, living in a free society this is part of what that looks like, is that occasionally people are going to die or be murdered in a tragic way. Some have the social landscape of America more than others. Some get days, weeks, months in the news cycle, while others get moments. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure it depends on primarily the news cycle. But Charlie Kirk would be considered somewhat of a notable big right-wing fish. And I think that's why it's still being talked about even today. When the president attends your funeral, that gets attention. But the thing that I would like to point out is that 200,000 people showed up. About 73,000 of them got into the arena that the Arizona Cardinal football team plays in. Shot dead by Tyler Robinson, allegedly. But my question for you is, this seems to bring out the best and the worst in people. Kimmel went on his nighttime show, which, by the way, ratings are tanking across the board for all nighttime hosts. America just seems disinterested in what these comedians have to say. And Jimmy said, many in MAGA land are working hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk, desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything but one of them. Wow. Okay. Now, I suppose you could say Jimmy finding himself in some hot water. ABC, the network that airs his show, suspends him. They thought cancel culture, Pitchfork Nation were going to come for him and for them. And so the knee jerk from those institutions is to immediately, we're going to be proactive here and we're acting on this. What was interesting was that the left, and I think I can say the left, made this about free speech. Now, free speech is an interesting way that we live our lives, right? Each and every one of us, it's one of our inalienable rights. We are able to live our lives in a way where we can say whatever we like. You can protest. In fact, it's encouraged. You can do all kinds of different ways to express yourself. Freedom of expression is another popular phrase in these United States of America, which one I've made a nice career out of. But freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. So if you work for a media conglomerate, or if you work for somebody and they decide that what it is that you're saying or doing or wearing or whatever doesn't fit or is in concert with the way that they choose to do business, then they can make other decisions that directly affect your employment and your paycheck and the way that you feed your family and pay your bills. In the case of Jimmy Kimmel, upon the death of Charlie Kirk, what I thought was interesting was just the smattering of people, some of which were vile. Like there's a lady in Glendale, Arizona, also in the show notes, that said something along, paraphrasing a bit here, when she said, I like it when bad things happen to bad people, and Charlie Kirk was a bad person. Now, you can disagree with Charlie Kirk, or you can disagree with anybody on the left, but does it mean that they're bad people? Bad people. Just because you don't agree with something that somebody says or believe something that somebody else believes does not make you a bad person, nor does it make me a bad person for believing opposite of what you believe. How do we get so distracted from that? Apparently it's because we're not going to school. Because if we went to school, we would learn everything you need to know you learn in kindergarten. Treat people nice. Treat them with respect. Lead with kindness. How is it that we come over the top and we right away begin with this idea that Charlie Kirk's a bad dude, that bad things need to happen to him? And Kimmel, whose show, by the way, 6 days later reinstated, why go there at all? So it used to be, or at least my perception of what used to be, was that late night hosts worked really hard to be funny and to leave politics out of it. When President Trump got elected the first time, it started, and then the second time, it's just continued this vitriol that we just can't seem to outrun. But there was something that was different this time. Cancel culture seemed to show its hand a bit. And cancel culture means that if you're a Republican or if you lean to the right, and if you are somebody that believes in right-leaning policies, Pitchfork Nation is different for you than it is for lefties. Pitchfork Nation for lefties worked in almost completely the opposite way that it does for righties. In that, if a lefty is going down, it's about free speech. If a lefty is going down, it's about he has a right to say whatever he wants. If a lefty is going down, tell me what he said isn't true. If a righty's going down, remove that statue. If a righty is going down, we have to silence him immediately. That kind of vitriol, that kind of nonsense cannot get into the earlobes of other Americans. If a righty's going down, it's cancel him now and ask questions later. As Kimmel would say, there was no, there was great conversations with Disney. There was great conversations with ABC, Disney, the parent company that owns ABC. Great conversations about being open and honest and transparent, and making sure that when we have these different conversations that we're talking to each other and we're hearing each other, and that we're getting to a place where this is we can come to some sort of conclusion and maybe some sort of agreement. And it worked out for Kimmel. Kimmel went back to his big paycheck. He went back to his declining nighttime audience. In fact, he was very happy to say that because of all the publicity that surrounded this, he saw an uptick in ratings, an uptick that, oh, by the way, he needed. I'm sleeping long before Kimmel or Fallon or Colbert or any of these guys take the stage, if you will, or their shows air. I'm almost 3 hours into my nighttime rest by that time. But I would offer this. Kimmel can certainly, anybody really, can have an opinion. But remember this, it's a lesson I learned early in my talk radio career, and thank God that I did. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. And if you decide that you're going to take a stand in a polarized world that we live in today over a tragic, horrible death, and you don't expect that you're going to get punished for that, shame on you. And you know what, Kimmel? There was too much at risk for you to take that chance. It worked out for you. You danced pretty close to the flame this time. And just know that had you been on the other side of the aisle, it'd be Jimmy Who. Nobody'd be talking about you today. And to Charlie Kirk and his family, how horrible. Glenn Beck, Turning Point USA was to be, from what I understand, on the campus of the University of North Dakota on October 9th. Glenn Beck is going to make that appearance in Charlie Kirk's place to make sure that his commitments are held. And my understanding is Turning Point USA is going to continue to do all that they can to keep Charlie's college campus visits alive and well. I'm sure they're reeling a bit and trying to put it all together. But Charlie Kirk, much like so many others, have left quite the legacy behind. And his wife is determined to keep it going. Flipping over to page 3, over this past weekend, the Border Battle cross country meet, my daughter participated in cross country at Grand Forks Central, and Sean Allen is the head cross country coach there. And Coach Allen is a guy that is, I haven't seen a guy that is more passionate about anything than really he is about cross country and running, and making sure that athletes get the opportunity to do so in our community. Malacca, Minnesota used to hold what was referred to as, I believe, was it the world's or the country's, I forget which, largest cross-country meet. And dozens of teams would cascade upon Malacca, Minnesota, just a small town, a tiny town really, just outside of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And these teams would run a meet that my daughter participated in. So my wife and I went to. It was a big deal. It was huge. Malacca, for whatever reason, decided that, yeah, we're good. It was time. But Coach Allen and I think Richard Defoe and others, the Red River cross-country coach, decided that they wanted to keep it going. And so this is, I think, year 2 or 3. You battle for an oar. Teams from all over the Midwest currently, I mean, it could change. It could get people from all over the country to come to this thing. But boys Class A over the weekend went to Bowman County. That's their 4th time that they've won this. Girls Class A, Hillsboro, Central Valley, right? Claire Grinde set a course record with 18 minutes and 7 seconds, which is just absolutely clipping for a young lady. Girls 2A winners was Perham, and the boys 2A went to Sioux Falls, Lincoln, who is the 18th ranked team in the country. Right here in little old Grand Forks, North Dakota, there were buses all over the place. You had to be driving around with your eyes closed not to see them. There was infiltrated in our community. But the thing that I also want to draw your attention to is if you get a chance to go to that event in the future, you absolutely should. But the second piece of that is we partnered, we being KNOX Radio and we being Leighton Media, partnered with the University of North Dakota Aerospace folks. And what they did for us, we merged 2 ideas. For those that don't know, we're we have a very large presence in video sports. And we have been trying to figure out a way to get this thing on YouTube. in our KNOX sports channels. So the folks at UND Aerospace said, well, we can help. We got a couple of drones, and let's see what we can do. I'm going to encourage you to go to YouTube. I'm going to encourage you to check out the KNOX sports channel. I'm going to encourage you to look at the border battle. And I'm going to encourage you to watch that coverage. If you were there, you saw them put it on big screens. You saw that the kids who put as much effort, I can tell you from my daughter being in cross country, there's summer running, there's spring running, there's track in the spring, there's summer running groups, there's get your miles in, there's team bonding, there's all these things that Coach Allen and Richard Defoe do to give these kids these opportunities. And we've been trying since we started KNOX Sports to figure out a way. How can we get this on our YouTube channel? We think we found the recipe. We think we found a good way to do it. We think we found the way that we can help these kids have the same sort of memories that kids that play some of the core sports, you might call it, right? Hockey and football and basketball. And they get a lot of media attention. We got that down. We know how that works. We know where to go. We know what we need, all those things. But this was something that we had never really tried before. And I think you're going to like it. KNOX Sports, and I'll put a link down in the show notes too. But go to YouTube, KNOX Sports, look for Border Battle, and I think that you're really going to like what you see. Final thing I have for you today, as the great Paul Harvey would say, page 4. The University of North Dakota hockey team in 2027, the Friendship 4, over Thanksgiving long weekend, they're going to head overseas. And Quinnipiac, Wisconsin, Northeastern, and the University of North Dakota, our beloved Fighting Hawks, are going to play in a hockey, I think loosely we can call it a tournament. Showcase is probably more accurate. Coach Jackson has issued the challenge. This is going to be one that he wonders how much support there's going to be from the UND faithful to make it across the big pond to watch our beloved Fighting Hawks play. It's been 40 years, 40 years since the University of North Dakota men's hockey team has played a game outside of the United States of America. It's a big deal. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, has anybody called them and told them what's about to happen? Has anybody called? Has anybody said, hey, you might want to start putting some cases in the corner now, because what's about to happen to you over Thanksgiving weekend in 2027? It's how the University of North Dakota becomes staples at these kinds of things, because the support that comes from the fans of the University of North Dakota men's hockey team is like nothing that you have ever seen. And I'm guessing they will answer the bell again. I know of at least 3 people in this building that are already making plans to do so. That'll do it for this episode of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. I find myself, and maybe it's because I'm older now, and maybe it's because I'm less fire and brimstone than I once was, and maybe I'm perhaps just a little bit wiser. We got to be kind to each other. I mean, this is what's going on. Is not to underscore it. It's not good. A man died because he gave his opinion. He's not the first, and he certainly won't be the last. But for the love of Pete and all that is pure, let's just try to be a little nicer to one another.